No one ever plans for chaos. Sometimes it just slips in quietly, disguised as something you thought you wanted. Maybe even something you thought you needed. That's how it started for me. Not with a bang or some wild, dramatic moment, but with a whisper of curiosity and a slow-burning hunger for more. More attention. More love. More excitement. And before I knew it, more became too much. You see, I wasn't happy with just one. No, I tried with 4. It wasn't supposed to be like this. At first, there was just Jamie, sweet, reliable, always there. The kind of person who remembered your favorite takeout order and could finish your sentences. Jamie was comfort. A Sunday morning. A steady heartbeat. But the thing about comfort is, after a while, it stops feeling like magic. It becomes routine. And when everything feels routine, you start to wonder what else is out there. Enter Chris. Loud. Wild. The opposite of calm. Chris was a thunderstorm in the middle of a dry season. With him, everything was fast, intense, a little reckless. He didn't ask questions, he pulled me into places I'd never been, physically and emotionally. And for a while, I thought maybe that was the answer. Maybe I needed fire instead of warmth. But fire burns, and Chris never came with a fire extinguisher. I told myself it was just a phase. That I could handle it. That no one had to get hurt. And then there was Riley. Riley didn't chase storms or bake cookies on Sundays. Riley was mystery. The kind of person you can never fully figure out, but can't stop trying. Quiet but deep. The type who stares too long and sees too much. I told myself Riley was different. But what I didn't realize was that Riley was watching me unravel in real time. And still, I let them in. 3. That should have been enough, right? Any normal person would have hit the brakes. But I wasn't living in logic, I was running on adrenaline and loneliness. It was a weird mix. That's when Taylor appeared. Not loud like Chris. Not warm like Jamie. Not mysterious like Riley. Taylor was sharp. Confident. Someone who always seemed a step ahead. And somehow, they saw right through me. They knew something was off. But they didn't walk away. I thought I had it under control. That I could keep each of them in their own little world, never overlapping, never colliding. But life doesn't work like that. Secrets have a way of slipping through the cracks. And once one thread starts to loosen, the whole thing unravels fast. There were close calls. Missed texts. Mistaken names. A glance too long in public. But somehow, I kept the walls up until the day they all met. Not on purpose. Not in some twisted social experiment. Just fate, or maybe karma, having the final say. And that's when everything shifted. They say you can juggle a lot until the music stops. Then everyone looks around, wondering what the hell just happened. That's exactly what it felt like. The music stopped. The truth came out. And suddenly, I wasn't juggling feelings, I was standing in the middle of 4 very real, very different storms. What happened next? Well, let's just say, that's where the real story begins. So if you've ever chased too much, wanted more than what you could handle, or tried to balance a lie so big it had its own heartbeat, you'll want to hear what happened when the walls finally came down. Because trust me, trying with 4? It wasn't just complicated. It was explosive. And someone didn't walk away. Stay with me. This gets messy. It didn't all fall apart at once. That would have been easier, maybe. Cleaner. But the thing about juggling hearts is that even when one slips, you keep trying to catch the others, out of guilt, panic, or just pure denial. After that day, the day they saw each other, even just for a second, everything felt like it was hanging by a thread. I could see it in their eyes. Suspicion. A shift in energy. No one said anything outright, but the air changed. I started going back, thinking through every moment that led to this. Every step that felt harmless in the beginning. Jamie and I had been together the longest. Years, actually. High school sweethearts, if you want to call it that. We knew everything about each other, too much, maybe. And while Jamie loved me with a kind of calm devotion that most people would kill for, I had stopped feeling seen in it. I started to feel like furniture in my own life. Comfortable, but invisible. Chris came into my life fast. I met him at a concert, one of those loud, crowded nights where the music makes you forget who you are. We didn't even talk much at first. We just moved, danced, breathed the same messy air. He made everything feel urgent and alive again. But Chris wasn't exactly the type to stay in one place. He lived in the moment, and I let myself live there too, until I realized the moment doesn't care about consequences. Then there was Riley. We met through a friend of a friend at a poetry night. I wasn't even supposed to be there. Riley didn't say much, but every word carried weight. They made me feel like I was worth listening to, like they were seeing a part of me I didn't show anyone else. The quiet between us wasn't empty. It was full of all the things I didn't even know I needed to feel. Taylor was different from all of them. Smart. Strategic. We met at work, and I should have known better. Taylor had a way of reading people like books and closing them before you saw the ending. With them, it wasn't about fireworks, it was chess. Every move calculated. Every conversation with a layer underneath. I think that's why I was drawn in. I was tired of being figured out. But Taylor wasn't like the others. They didn't fall as easily. They watched. And that made them dangerous. The thing is, none of them knew about each other. Not really. Maybe a hint here or there, a casual name dropped in a story, but never the full picture. I kept it all in different boxes, tucked away. And somehow, I convinced myself that as long as I kept things separate, no one would get hurt. But secrets grow. They take up space. And eventually, they start to leak. That night, the night everything started to unravel, wasn't some dramatic movie scene. It was subtle. A look across a room. A passing comment. A name said with a little too much familiarity. I watched it happen in slow motion, like a thread pulling loose from a sweater. And even though no one screamed, I could feel it. The ground shifting. The tension building. And in the back of my mind, I knew I couldn't hold it together much longer. What made it worse was that I still didn't know who I really wanted. Each of them gave me something different. Something I thought I needed. But love, if that's even what it was, had turned into a maze. One I built myself, and now couldn't escape from. And then, just when I thought I could maybe explain it all, try to fix something, Riley sent me a message. Just one line, "We need to talk. All of us." That's when I knew the game was over. Or maybe, it was just beginning. I stared at the message for a long time, my thumb hovering over the screen. We need to talk. All of us. It wasn't just a request, it felt like a demand. And as I read it, a cold pit formed in my stomach. Riley never spoke like that. They were always measured, controlled. And now they were throwing all that away, signaling the kind of urgency I'd been dreading. It was clear, whatever illusion I'd been living under had finally cracked. I tried to shake off the dread creeping up my spine. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding. Maybe they'd seen something that wasn't there. But I knew better. Riley wasn't the type to make empty threats. They knew exactly what they were doing. I didn't respond immediately. I couldn't. What was there to say? But I knew I had to act fast, before anyone else caught wind of it. The problem was, I didn't know where to start. Chris was in the middle of one of his unpredictable moods, texting me constantly, asking when I'd be free again for a late-night adventure. Meanwhile, Jamie had been quieter lately, which wasn't unusual, but there was something different in the way they looked at me. It wasn't the usual warmth. It was distant. Almost like they knew, but didn't want to ask. I could feel it in the air between us. The calm before the storm. Taylor, though. Taylor was the one I should have been worried about. They were sharp. The type of person who noticed every little detail. Every slip-up. And I had already made too many. I could already picture them, sitting at their desk, their eyes narrowing when I'd said something that didn't add up. They weren't the type to confront someone directly, but I could feel the pull of their silence, their watchful gaze. The tension in our conversations was palpable, and I knew that sooner or later, they'd piece it together. I sat there, frozen in my own guilt and confusion, trying to plan some kind of escape, when the text came again. A simple line from Riley, tonight. 7 p.m. Be there. All of us. The ultimatum was clear. But I couldn't just show up, could I? If I went, it was over. No more pretending. No more running. The walls would come down, and I would be forced to face whatever mess I had made. But if I didn't go, it would be worse. They'd think I was hiding something. And honestly, at that point, I wasn't even sure what I was hiding anymore. I called Jamie first. I needed a voice of reason. Hey, do you have a second? I said, trying to keep the panic out of my voice. Can we talk? About everything? Jamie hesitated. There was a strange silence on the other end of the line, then a soft reply. Of course. But I've been feeling like there's something you're not telling me. That hit harder than I expected. The last thing I wanted was to drag Jamie into this chaos. They deserved better. But now, I had no choice. Every lie, every secret, was catching up to me, and they could all feel it. I could hear Jamie breathing on the other end of the phone. That soft, nervous sound. They were trying to be understanding, but I could tell something was off. The hesitation in their voice wasn't the kind of hesitation I was used to. It wasn't the "I don't want to hurt you" hesitation, it was the "I already know something's wrong" hesitation. I'll be there in a bit, Jamie said finally. We'll talk. I don't know what's going on, but we need to clear the air. I hung up and stared at my phone screen for a moment. A lump formed in my throat. This wasn't how I thought things would go. I never imagined it would end like this, being backed into a corner, caught between lies and love, trying to figure out who I was anymore. I had just finished pulling myself together when Chris texted me again. When can I see you? It was like he couldn't feel the weight of the situation at all, as if I was just another distraction to him. That thought, him treating me like a distraction, sent a rush of panic through me. If I didn't show up to Riley's, if I didn't face the consequences, maybe Chris would keep me in his storm, distracting me forever. I didn't know which was worse, the chaos or the silence. I was running out of time. I had to decide. I had to make my choice, because I couldn't keep them all in the dark forever. The lies were unraveling, slowly but surely, and I could feel the tight grip of reality closing in. But just before I could dial Riley's number to explain my hesitation, the doorbell rang. It was Jamie. I didn't open the door right away. My heart was racing, and for a second, I thought about bolting, just running out and letting everything fall apart. But I knew I couldn't do that. With a deep breath, I opened the door. Jamie was standing there, their face unreadable. I think we both know what this is about, they said quietly, stepping inside. I closed the door behind them, the weight of everything sinking in. And then, without warning, Jamie looked me straight in the eyes and asked, "Who else is there?" How many people, really? It was a question that would shatter everything. I froze. Jamie's question hung in the air like an electric charge. My mind scrambled to find the right words, to somehow patch up the cracks that were widening by the second. But there was no way to answer without it all coming out, the truth I'd worked so hard to bury. I don't know what you mean, I stammered, my voice unsteady, but I could see the look on Jamie's face. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even disappointment. It was knowing. Don't lie to me, Jamie said, their voice low but firm. I've seen the signs. The missed calls. The strange silences. I can feel it, and so can you. I wanted to say something. Anything. But before I could, my phone buzzed. The screen lit up with Riley's name. I glanced at it. Should I answer? Should I risk it? But it was too late. The message popped up on the screen, just as Jamie stepped closer. You can't hide forever. It felt like a warning, like a message from someone who knew exactly what I was trying to avoid. And that's when I saw something I hadn't noticed before. On the corner of the text, a tiny notification appeared, showing Riley was not alone. There was a second number attached to the message. My heart skipped a beat. I didn't recognize the number. But it wasn't just the unknown number that rattled me, it was the fact that Riley had sent it to me with such certainty. It was like they already knew something I hadn't even admitted to myself yet. I tried to dismiss the feeling of dread creeping up my neck, but I couldn't shake it. Something was shifting. I looked back at Jamie, and for the first time, I saw real hurt in their eyes. It's not just the four of us, is it? Jamie asked softly, stepping back. There's someone else, isn't there? Suddenly, I wasn't sure who was playing whom. My heart raced as I stared at Jamie, the truth crashing down on me. They'd figured it out. Riley's message, the strange number, they weren't just playing games anymore. This had become something real, something I couldn't ignore. I had no choice but to face it. "I'm sorry," I whispered, the weight of the words heavier than I expected. "It's not just the four of you. There's someone else." I could see Jamie's breath catch, but there was no anger in their eyes, only a kind of sadness. "I never meant for it to happen this way." Jamie didn't respond right away. Instead, they pulled out their phone, unlocking it and swiping through something. A moment passed before they showed me the screen. It was a text conversation, but the names at the top froze me. It was Taylor. And below it, a message from Chris. "I knew you'd get caught," Chris had written, followed by Taylor's reply, "Not if we got there first." The world tilted under my feet. My mind raced. What is this? What does it mean? Jamie didn't answer right away. They just stared at me, eyes wide. "You've been played." The four of us weren't the only ones in this mess. They've been in it too, working together. I couldn't breathe. My head spun as I pieced it together. Taylor and Chris, who'd seemed so separate, so different, had known everything. They'd been running their own game behind the scenes. A game that I'd been too blind to see. Before I could say anything else, my phone buzzed again, this time from Riley. The last message was simple, chilling, "Game over." And that's when the doorbell rang. All of them. At once. The doorbell rang again, louder this time, pulling me out of my stunned silence. I looked at Jamie, who was standing there, shaking their head in disbelief. My pulse thundered in my ears as I walked toward the door, my feet feeling like lead. This was it, the moment everything would finally collapse. I wasn't sure what I was going to say, what I could say, but there was no turning back. I opened the door slowly, and there they all were: Chris, Riley, Taylor, and Jamie. The four of them, standing together in a line, each of their faces carrying a mix of suspicion, hurt, and something else I couldn't quite place. I swallowed hard. "Everyone's here," Jamie said quietly, glancing around at the group, their voice tight. "Time to come clean." I didn't know what to expect. A confrontation? An explosion of anger? But instead, they all just stood there, staring at me with a kind of resigned understanding. It wasn't the chaos I feared. It was more like a quiet acceptance of what had happened, even if none of us could quite make sense of it. Riley broke the silence first. "You don't need to explain. We know everything. We've known for a while." Taylor's voice followed, calm but firm. "This wasn't about us trying to hurt you. It was about us seeing the truth before you did." Chris just shook his head, his expression unreadable. "But the game's over. No more running." There was nothing left to say. I'd hurt them all in ways I didn't even realize. But now, standing there, all of us in the same room, the weight of it was clearer than ever. The game had ended, but the consequences weren't something any of us could escape. As they turned to leave, I stood there for a long time, watching the door close behind them. The mess I'd made wasn't something I could fix. But maybe, for the first time, I was ready to face the truth and move forward, whatever that looked like.